just curious why the word cute is your only adjective for everything. You don't think my house is cute? I figured it's time for a Q&A. This is my little house. I've been renovating it and filming the process for 2.5 years now. The last time I did a Q&A was almost 2 years ago, and I get so many questions all the time, so here's another one. I asked for questions on Instagram and YouTube, and I screenshotted the ones that I find interesting. I've screenshotted 58 questions. I'm not going to answer 58 questions, but I will be answering some that were quite popular, some that were maybe not so popular, but questions that I just want to answer. And I might even answer some questions that literally nobody asked. Let's get to it. How have Rosie the designer and Rosie the builder been getting along lately? You know what? Rosie the designer and Rosie the builder are pretty much a good unit nowadays, because Rosie the designer knows how limited Rosie the builder is. Rosie the designer, when it comes to my house, is nothing like the actual designer. For those who might be new, I am an interior designer. That is my profession. When I say interior designer, I work as an interior architect, not decorator. So I design hotels, restaurants, retail spaces. Have done some residential, but not much. So basically doing built-in units like this, but to much more detail, is what I do. When I first started this process, I was very determined to do it up to a really good standard, and then very quickly realized that I couldn't, because I don't have the tools, the skills, the materials, the money to do any of that. So now I've come to this point where I know the materials that are available that I can get, and I essentially design according to the materials. So it's quite limiting, but I'm quite aware of my limitations and I just work around it. So that works out quite well, but it's nothing like my actual job. I mean, there's no like chamfered edges with like this 3mm brass inlay, 50mm from the edge. There's no detailing in my design. So yeah, my designer and builder me's are doing quite well. Watching your channel, you don't seem to worry about how much time something might take, and it's very calming, very much about the journey. I desire and intend to live like you one day. Any tips to get started? I like this question, but I have no idea how to answer it. I think maybe, I don't know whether this is really what you were asking about, but I think lots of people sort of wish they were different, and I think people get lost in actually trying to change their personality rather than embracing who they are. If you need a lot of time to recharge, embrace it and just take all of that time. You'll be a much better version of yourself, because then you're able to focus your energy on the things that actually matter. I think having a mindset like that might just help for you to find that thing that you really want to do, and then appreciate that journey that you're in, rather than keep on thinking, I should be doing something else because my friends are doing something else. From a practical point of view, I think the only tip that I could really give you is to not want to be perfect. That was the most difficult thing for me, especially being an interior designer. But you just have to get over that if you do it for yourself. Just know that you're going to have limitations and work with those as you gain your skills. I get so many comments from people saying you're being hard on yourself, and it actually really bothers me, because I'm not. I'm acknowledging what I'm able to make at this point in time with the knowledge I have, with the skills I've gained, with the tools that I'm able to work with. And some things that I make are just ugly, and that's fine, because it doesn't define me. When I say that something I've made is ugly, that doesn't mean that I'm a horrible person because I happen to have made it. It's because at this point in time I'm not very good at something yet, but in a year from now I might be very good at it. You know, you just need to keep in mind that it's good to acknowledge your capabilities right now, because it will help you to grow. It'll help you to know how to improve yourself. So just be flexible with yourself and know that things are going to take time and that it's part of the process and it doesn't define you. Okay, what was your upbringing like? I'm guessing you're asking this because you want to know how someone was raised to be stable enough to do this thing that I'm doing right now. I was never pushed in a certain direction, and I think that's very important. My parents never made any comments about you should find a job, maybe in this direction. I was always interested in drawing. I wanted to be a cartoon artist when I was a child. I never quite managed to do 2 drawings in which my characters looked exactly the same. I think a lot of parents might try and push their children in a certain direction because you'll always have money. And even a tiny comment like that is going to put a seed in your head for the rest of your life. You know that money is something to worry about. And my parents never did that. There's always jobs. I've always felt very free to do what I wanted to do. And I've never been someone to doubt what I want to do or to think too much about others' opinions. My parents, when they were younger, they did a lot of bicycle touring, so I guess I was brought up with knowing adventures like that weren't strange. I think I've been allowed to find out who I am or what I like to do, and I've learned to embrace it. I'm not raised to fear anything. I think so many people are afraid. They don't know what they're afraid of, but they're like, you live in a forest, surely there's something to be afraid of. But when you really think about it, what's there to be afraid of? People don't even know. Question the things that you think. If there's something to genuinely worry about, then figure out what it is and then deal with it. These questions are going to be very serious. I wanted more silly questions. How old are you? Oh, I got so many of those questions. I think people think I'm younger than I am because I get a lot of young lady comments, and they sort of make me laugh because I googled my age. I googled my age, and Google told me I am no longer young. I'm not young. I am not young. Google said you're not young. So I'm not a young lady. I told my sister she's 2 years older than me, and she told me that she needed a couple of days to recuperate from the knowledge that she was no longer young. Because she thought she was still young. And I was like, nope, Google tells me we're no longer young. It's a fact. So how old am I? I am... Okay, this is a much better question. See, I play The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings a lot. When I do work, I like to have something going on in the background, and they're really good movies to keep going. If you were living in Middle Earth, which probably has DIY shops, yes, they would have. They absolutely would have. That would be amazing. Who and what would you be? Well, the reality is that I probably dress like a hobbit a lot nowadays. But I would absolutely be an elf. I'm sorry, I would be an elf. And quite frankly, I would be like a crafts person type of elf. I mean, I would probably be an architect. I would make those amazing buildings that they have, 100%. But I would also be very good at like bow and arrow things, because that's cool. I wouldn't want to kill anything, but I would be really good at it just because really cool. I really want to be an elf. Actually, years ago, I started learning Elfish when I was a teenager. I remember printing out this bookwork to learning Elfish. That would have been really cool if I still remembered. Okay. Okay, so Jen is asking how annoyed I get when I get the same comment or advice hundreds of times, such as, have you thought about getting fans for your wood burner? Okay, first of all, I think Jen is a gem. Jen, you're a gem, because Jen gets it. I actually thought about this question for a really long time, thinking about how I was going to answer this. I don't really know how to phrase it without sounding really harsh, because I know people are giving advice. I don't know how to say it other than it drives me absolutely bonkers. Oh my gosh, I have something like 1800 comments about stovetop fans. After putting up that first video in which I got my stove installed, I got so many comments about stovetop fans, and I'd already planned to buy them because, you know, I do my research, I learn about things, obviously. And so actually in the video after that, I mentioned that I was going to get them, but that's like, you know, the 5 seconds of the video that everybody ignored because all I get is comments about stovetop fans. It's almost as though people think that I'm an alien who's descended upon this earth at the same time that I started my YouTube channel, and because of that I don't know about things. And people love to tell me about the existence of items that I should purchase, such as gloves and hats and snow boots. Top 3 items that people love telling me about are 1. Cars, 2. Wheelbarrows, 3. Stovetop fans. I can guarantee you I know about these items. I know about hats. I'll tell you one thing, I really dislike hats. They make my head too hot. It's a lot. But I like getting advice when it comes to things like building techniques or building tips. That can be very useful. Actually, when I asked for questions on YouTube, somebody took the opportunity to leave me this message, which says, I have mentioned twice before, but you should buy 2 small fans for your wood burning stove. Okay, first of all, that's not a question. That's not a Q&A question, that's just a comment. That's telling me to buy something. But also, if anybody ever feels the need to tell me something 3 times, then I would love for you to reconsider. I don't know why people tell me about the existence of items. I exist in this world. I know about things. If I needed a hat, I would buy a hat. I'm not an alien. I mean, I have been called an alien. As far as I know, I'm not an alien. So, I know about things. Thank you. Have you considered building a moat around your cabin? You know what? That would be so nice and quiet. That sounds so good right now. Are you planning on building an indoor shower or bathroom? I have absolutely no interest in an indoor shower or bathroom. I mean, first of all, there's no space. Second of all, the water connection would be a pain. Third of all, there's still no space. And fourthly, I just don't mind. If anything, I would build something closer to the water pump house to have like an outdoor shower that's connected to the plumbing out there, which would make it easier. But I'm not planning on building anything indoor. Everybody is also asking about the attic, but I've already given up on my attic. I have no idea if I'm going to do anything there. Do you want a pet? And if yes, are you a cat or a dog person? I am neither. I mean, cats are kind of okay, but they're not really, I don't love them. The mini ones are cute. I only like bunnies. I just like bunnies. I just want bunnies. Bunnies make me happy. I also like to leave. So I have no intention of getting any sort of pets or bunnies, even though I would love to have like 20 of them. Maybe when I'm very old. Or older, because apparently Google tells me I'm already not young anymore. So when I'm older, I might get like lots of bunnies if I know that I have no intention of ever leaving. Maybe that would be nice. I could have many. I like the mini lops. I like the mini ones with like the mini ears. They're very cute. Oh my god. Are you going to get a car? Get so many car questions. I thought I might need a car here, but turns out I don't. I just order materials in bulk every, say, 6 months or so. And that is a lot cheaper than owning a car. I feel like people forget that it's not just like driving license lessons, buying a car, then you've got petrol, insurance, maintenance, because they seem to always break. Like, the cost to having a car is really high. I will get a car when I need one. If I end up living in an area where there's a distinct lack of public transportation, or maybe it's an area where where I'm not able to have things delivered that easily, I'll get a car when I need one. But right now I don't need one. I know, I always get this question, why not have a car just in the case of emergency? But when you really think about it, if you're in such an emergency, like you're injured, that you need help imminently, then surely you wouldn't physically be able to drive a car anywhere, right? Like, if you're that injured, you wouldn't be able to drive yourself. You call 112. And if you're less injured, you clearly have the time to figure things out. Again, wait for an ambulance, or you can cycle. Have someone in the area help out. You know, there are houses dotted along this road. I know some of the people, they're all really nice, by the way. Yeah, there's a lot of what if something happens, but what if nothing happens? People are so scared of something happening, and they might not do what they want to do because what if? It means that essentially you'll spend your life almost wishing that something bad happened, because it will justify your decision to not do this because you were afraid of something, of emergencies. However, I do absolutely have a favorite car. I don't take donations or items from people, but if there's a billionaire for whom this has literally changed, then you're very welcome to give me my favorite car. I love this one, okay? If I get a car, I want this one. I mean, I don't know whether you could really call it a car, because it's a micro car and it goes like 45 kilometers per hour. It's amazing and it's so cute. It's so cute. I just want something really cute. I just want a cute little car. That will make me so happy. So yeah, anybody wants to get me this car, it's very expensive. I'll get a driver's license to be able to have this car. Do you ever feel alone? I have so many questions about this. I can't really say much about it because I genuinely don't. When I first started working from home during the lockdowns, I was really surprised as to how much I loved it. I never considered doing it because it's not something that happens in my industry, and I really loved it. I guess I just don't need much people around me. I really dislike it when people say that humans are social animals. I feel like maybe it's just a bunch of extroverts who started saying that, and all the introverts in the room had run out of social battery, so they didn't feel like raising their hands and going, well, only to a certain extent. You know what, if I ever were to feel differently, then I would just change my situation and then I would do something else. I'm losing the light, so I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. It's the next day and I'm back. I realised yesterday that I do not enjoy talking about myself for long periods of time, especially to an inanimate object. So let's start off today a little bit more light-hearted. Okay, what's my personality type? The first time I did the test, the result was the complete opposite of who I am. So I decided that I thought it was very silly. Anyways, I did it again some years ago, and you know the most introverted type, which is INTJ. So I'm not that one. I am INTP, but I don't really love the MBTI thing. I really like the Enneagram. I have a book about it. It's really interesting. I'm a number 5, and I like it because they talk about each personality type in a range of healthy to unhealthy, as in not everybody is able to live up to their full potential. Like, they discuss the personality in its full range, and you can see different aspects of yourself being on the healthier side and a slightly less healthy side, and I feel like it shows a very full picture of who you could be, and also what you would be like if you were completely down and out. And I think that's very interesting. Lots of questions about money things. I have a whole video about how I make money. It's very accurately called something like how I afford to live in the woods and renovate a cabin or something along those lines. And I talk about what I do for a living. I work as an interior designer and I make these YouTube videos now as well. And I make money from both. The past year I've done less interior design work. I realized that I somehow don't need all that much money to live off, and YouTube doesn't pay loads. The past few months have definitely seen an increase because I've had so much more views. But YouTube is also something that can fluctuate a lot, so I don't know whether that's something that's going to stay. But yeah, I do both. I do freelance interior design work and I make videos. The cost for this renovation is actually not that high because when you do things on your own, you can only do so much and progress is so slow that I'll do like a bulk order once every year or a couple of times a year, and that will keep me going for months because it's just me slowly progressing through this house. I don't need huge chunks of money all the time to keep this renovation going. Everything is slow, and I guess that's kind of good from a money point of view. I'm curious about how you plan and film your videos, like the creative process, rather than the technical details. What's the difference? I also have questions about my camera gear. About a year ago, I upgraded my camera gear and I got a Fujifilm X-T4. I got it secondhand from MPB or MBP. I have a Rode Video Mic Pro, I think, as a microphone. And then I have a budget lens. I have the TT Artisan 17mm, but because the camera isn't a full frame camera, it probably ends up being about like a 25mm lens. It's manual, so I always have to focus manually, which means that sometimes you get it wrong and it's not in focus. I have a drone, which is a DJI Mini 2, which is how I take any of the overhead shots, and it seems like many people don't quite understand how drones work, so I'm going to take you outside and show you, but I'll do that at the end of this video. But creative process wise, sometimes I make a plan as to what I want to do in a week or the 2 weeks that I have to do my renovations. My projects are very long, so I can't really finish a project in one video, but I try to sort of have some sort of conclusion, which doesn't always work. So I try and plan my days so that I can sort of accomplish something. And then depending on the week, I just sort of think I should add some other bits. So sometimes I film some walks or some laundry. I don't do too much planning because it's just normal life stuff that I film. I just have the camera, I just film everything that I do. Usually when I film a DIY thing and it's like a repeated action, such as making drawers, oftentimes I film things the first time I do them. I try to not film too much or too long because it takes up a lot of space on my hard drives and it can slow down the editing program. It can be interesting to see because you see someone figuring the thing out. It's just a lot of moving the camera around. Sometimes you just move the camera around all the time to take shots. So when I have all the footage, I start dropping them into the editing program. I use DaVinci, the free version. More often than not, it's just chronologically what happened in the week or 2 weeks. Sometimes I move things around to sort of make it more appealing. Sometimes I do all of the renovating at the start of the week, and then I have a couple of days where I film normal life things, and then I sort of put the normal life things in between the renovating, just because otherwise it doesn't flow very well. But usually it's very linear and I don't have to move things around, which I don't really like to do. One thing that I do that is quite time consuming is that I take 2 different shots from 2 different angles and I cut them together so that it looks like a seamless action. Or say if I'm walking in the snow from here to the firewood storage, that's just me walking back and forth many times to get shots from the different angles. That can be a lot of time in shooting, but also a lot of time in editing to find that perfect spot where you can put those 2 together. So nowadays I do a video every 2 weeks. I always edit the video on a Saturday before it goes live on Sunday usually. But nowadays the videos are quite long. I start dropping the footage into the program during that last week. So I spent a couple of evenings dropping footage in and doing like a really rough cut. And then on the Saturday I will do a full day of doing the final edits, dropping in the last footage and just editing and just making sure that there's hopefully a good pace to it. Music, narration. That Saturday is a long day. So when I say a full day, it's more like from 8 in the morning until like 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. And then sometimes I continue Sunday as well. So I spend about 20 hours editing each video. I think when they were a bit shorter it was often more like 16 hours. The fastest I've ever edited a video was 14 hours. And that was like, I can't believe I just did that in 14 hours. But it probably takes about 20 hours now. And then if I have a sponsorship, that could take another entire day. Going through the brief, what's required, getting familiar with the products, writing the script, filming it, editing. If you think about a normal work week usually being 40 hours, I guess you can imagine why I don't do weekly videos anymore, because there's no time to do any DIY and actually film when you spend so much time editing. I think that's all I can say. I don't know what else I can say about that. I like it when you sneak in a cooking or a sewing project. Any chance you might do more of those? I definitely try and film if I do sew something. I have a stack of fabrics that I was going to turn into things last summer, and I made a couple of things, but not everything, so I'll keep on going with that. So that will seep into videos now and again. When it comes to cooking, I don't really film myself cooking, because the reality is when I'm done renovating all day, I am hungry and I want to eat and not film. And if I film myself cooking, it means that I'm filming, and by the time I'm done it's midnight and my food is cold. So filming cooking is a very different thing from just cooking and eating. So I don't really do that because I want to eat, I'm hungry. Do you have a Patreon? Many questions about Patreon, buy me a coffee, Amazon wish lists. I decided that I'm not comfortable with people directly donating to what I do, because this is just my life, this is my choice, this is my project. Yeah, I want to be free to spend the money that I do have on whatever I want to spend it on. I don't want to feel like I have to be a certain person or do things in a certain way because that's what people expect from watching the channel. And I don't want people to feel as though they owe me in a way. I know that many people just want to contribute and just enjoy that without, expecting anything, but I feel that differently. So I want to be free in what I do and the choices that I make and who I am. Perhaps at one point, if I have a really big cost, which I really struggle to get together for something very specific, who knows, I might do something at one point. For now, I haven't felt the need to do that, and I've been able to pay for the things that I do, and I keep things simple, and I'm happy with that. I decided to instead do sponsorships. It's not ideal because I don't like breaking up the video and suddenly selling something, but I try to stick with brands or things that I like, that kind of suit the channel. I definitely have said no to sponsorships from like fast fashion brands of video games because I just don't play video games. That's just a choice I made. When it comes to things like Patreon, I also just don't have the time or mental energy or capacity to create more content for that. Amazon wishlist, to be honest, I don't really feel the need to promote Amazon. I try and not use Amazon if I can, and I don't really want to convince other people to use it more than I need to. What are you going to do when the cabin is done? You wait to active to just sit back. I don't think I'm all that active actually. I just like projects. I just like adventures. Okay, when this cabin is done, or well, sort of done, mostly done, it's never going to be fully done. I have sort of spoken about this before, that I kind of have this idea of building something. Renovating this cabin has taught me that renovations are really difficult. I sort of really struggled with the whole, I have an existing building and you need to demolish the existing building because there's issues with it before you can build something new. And I've realized that I don't like that part of the project. I have been just dreaming of building something from scratch, which is obviously difficult as well in a different way. I never had a dream to build my own house or anything. I always just thought I would rather take something existing and renovating, which is what I'm doing. But that has made me realize that I actually do want to build something from scratch. So I have these visions of something that I want to build, and I have them more and more. I do little sketches now and again, so I have some ideas of what I might actually want to do when I finish. This was always like a project, and I didn't know whether this was a project that I was going to keep forever or live in forever. Yeah, I was completely open to whatever was going to happen. I'm still doing it. I do enjoy it. Certain aspects are tough, but I also have dreams of something else which may or may not happen. By the time I'm finished here, I might just want to take my backpack and walk away. I'd love to take my backpack and just start walking somewhere. That will be just get away from everything for a while. Anything can happen in between now and then, so who knows. But yeah, I am thinking about building something. That would be very interesting. I would probably start by building a shed, because I have realised that the things you do first are a bit awful. Ariel Bissett wants to know if she can come visit. You can come visit, you can come visit, Ariel can come visit. I get people wanting to volunteer, but that's not my thing. I just love to be here on my own. I couldn't host strangers. I just like doing this project, you know, with myself and getting the skills myself. So, but Ariel, you can come visit. Ariel, you can come visit. Okay, this is my drone. So let's go outside and I will show you how I use it and how I get those shots that everybody seems to be curious about. Cool. Let's go. Okay, so this is a relatively basic drone. It's a small one. It's under 250 grams, which means that you're allowed to fly it in more places. Otherwise you need like licenses and everything. So it's a light one, but it only has a sensor at the bottom, and some of the more fancy ones have sensors at the top or the sides, I think, so they can avoid trees, but mine can definitely fly into trees, and that has happened. So some drones have a follow me function, which this one doesn't have, which means that it basically just links to your phone or your remote, and you fly it into position. So you want it here, and then as you walk, it will always follow you at that distance from you. It would just do that. I actually downloaded a third-party app for that, which has that function. I used it like once, but then the GPS jumped around so much that just before I started filming, it thought it needed to change positions, and it flew straight into a tree. So I haven't used it since. So I keep things very simple. I have to always have this remote. Okay. Let's start flying. Okay. It's hovering. I don't need to do a thing. This drone is going to keep hovering until it runs out of batteries when you fly it into place. So when it hovers, I can put the remote away and just do whatever I need to do until that thing runs out of battery. The battery lasts for about 15-20 minutes. It just hovers. So let's fly it. There's a bit of wind, which isn't ideal, but whenever you see me walking, I'm always holding the remote. Or if I'm on my bike, I'm holding the remote. I'm just trying to hide it because you're shooting from behind. Right? Like right now. I'm flying, but you can't see it. So it's that simple, really. Whenever you see the remote in my hand, I just try to edit it out of the shot so it's not too obvious. So yeah, we've just taken the magic out of my videos. Okay, my fingers are so incredibly cold. I hope that was somewhat interesting. Next video will be me doing more renovations, I guess. I'll see you then.